And now we do come to Andrew Murray. As most people will know, he's CMO of the DP World Tour. He's an advisor to the R&A. And the R&A are not just a UK-based organization. They have 149 affiliates worldwide. So there's quite a reach, really. He's had previous roles in policy at Scottish Government. And when we did manage to raise funds from the World Golf Foundation to run the Golf and Health Project, he was the perfect candidate to do the PhD. And I argued at the time that we'd have a scientist that would be around for 30 years and that would attract more science to our sport. And I think there's evidence of that today. He's had a bit of a good start with COVID, but today he's going to be talking more about golf contribution to global health. Some of that may be COVID. And what's new in golf research. Andrew Murray.
Thanks a million for that, Roger, and two fantastic talks to start the day. Just very, very grateful to the college and to Paddy and to Aaron and to Jan, to the team that have put that on. What we're going to discuss really is some of the golf research, some of the development that's going on, and also some implementation as well. I think Fiona shared and Marie shared the importance not only of looking at the evidence, but also working out how we can develop stuff and making things better. Avoiding going back to where we were before, but thinking what we can contribute and how we can maximise the value of golf and its contribution to health for individuals and for populations as well. So a bit of a whistle-stop tour here, but you can see that golf has actually increased in popularity in the last 5 years, going from 55 million golfers worldwide to the current figure of 66 million. And again, Fiona challenged that number and just thinking through exactly what that means, so perhaps further detail would be helpful, but there is about 1 in 100 people globally that play golf, and more than 5 million people playing golf in the UK. So it is popular here. It's popular pretty much ever except for Antarctica. And also, just a shout out to our colleagues that are following this conference online in 6 different continents. I'm not aware of anyone in Antarctica, but I think we've got everywhere else covered. So welcome to colleagues in China, colleagues in South America, online in South Africa, Australia as well, and hopefully they can take part in the Q&A as well. So again, there are some key areas here. This is quite a busy slide, but you can see that the best thing about golf and health at present is there's a really vibrant community looking at the research, looking at how we can develop things and also implementation. And some of the key themes that are coming together really are about physical activity and health. What is the contribution that golf can make to physical activity? Can it provide health-enhancing physical activity? Golf and well-being and mental health, a previously unexplored area, but fantastic stuff that's happening, both in terms of individual projects, but also that wider collaboration. Golf and physical health, again, we've had colleagues from Sweden, colleagues from different parts of the world look at this in detail, but I think, and now it's it's a wider global focus, more people looking at this, and the same with illness and injury prevention. We've got colleagues that support these projects for the IOC, for World Rugby, for various others, so I think golf can learn from these organisations and what they've done to look at when bad things happen, what can we do to lead to improvement. And again, as Fiona shared, that sort of grey part of the curve. If we are getting people more physically active and playing golf or doing other things using that space, fantastic, but also how can we limit the downside or any issues that can occur through skin cancer, which we'll hear about, through specific injuries. And again, just thinking about golf and accessibility is absolutely critical to what we're achieving. How can we make golf for all? And I think Marie shared the challenges of inequality as well, and I think one thing that golf does exceptionally well, and we'll hear about golf and frailty and for older adults in some of these sessions, is that golf can be played by all of society, and the least active people globally are actually our older adults. And there's still time to be active and to play golf or other health-enhancing physical activities. So I think inclusivity is important, but let's not forget that golf is for all ages and sport is for all ages as well. There's injury, there's golf and COVID, some study that's been done on that as well, physical activity, and I think also thinking of the multi-system benefits of golf and issues there. So again, if we look at golf as a health-enhancing physical activity, this is a stat that, again, I borrowed from our Chief Medical Officer, And you can see that although there are issues that you can get, like athlete's foot and blisters, and some of the illness and injury you'll hear, there is massive benefit in getting people more active more often. It doesn't really matter what it is. If people are physically active and get more physically active or remain physically active, the benefits are huge. And golf is just one factor there. But you can see that in terms of golf, it can provide health-enhancing physical activity. It can be moderate to vigorous, particularly for older adults. You're looking at vigorous activity, and it is for a sustained period of time, so a good volume of physical activity. Again, I think a key point that one of the delegates made last night was that how can we actually get people thinking about using walking the golf course as the default position, which it is in Scotland. But how can we actually make that the default position and make sure that people have the opportunity to walk? Because I know there are some courses that don't permit that. You have to use a buggy. And that halves the amount of physical activity that you take. So again, the references are all there, and we look forward to hearing from our colleagues in Finland as well. But I think this is a key slide, really, and thank you to our colleagues at the University of Southern California, Professor George Salem and Professor Maria Stoke, that have looked at strength and balance. So we know that golf can provide moderate to vigorous physical activity. We know that it can provide non-sedentary time. Both of these things are important. But what is its contribution to muscle strengthening? What's contribution to balance-enhancing activity? And you can see again that for older adults, there are clear benefits in terms of muscle strengthening and balance enhancement. And these benefits are likely there to an extent for all those that participate. Golf, mental health and well-being. When we did the scoping review in 2018, 2017, this was an evidence gap, but I'm pleased to say that there's so much that's looking at this area now. And again, more is required looking at golf and Parkinson's, dementia, anxiety and depression. But it's great to hear of the work that's going on in these areas, but there is consistent evidence that shows that golf can improve self-esteem, improve self-efficacy, self-confidence, social interactions, social engagements, and can also provide green space. Again, many physical activities have the benefits of being outside in the great outdoors. And although it's pretty hot out there, there can be some additional benefits to outside exercise as well. So the economic case for investing in physical activity for mental health is strong, and hopefully golf can play a part in that as well. Here are some examples. So again, Golf and Society are in Gullin. Golf and Society are all over the place, and they're looking to provide opportunities not only for people to be active, but also for their carers to get some respite. You know, a good amount of respite care to allow recovery, recharging, while their relatives or loved ones are having the opportunity to do that. Again, golf is for everyone as well. So Unleash Your Drive is a campaign with the Golf Foundation, making sure that young people can have the opportunity to play golf, but also as part of our programme, develop other life skills as well. Again, there can be some dramatic examples of people really benefiting their mental health and well-being through golf and other physical activities. And we see this with other sports in terms of your footballs, your rugbies, just outlining that for them it really was life-changing and making an enormous difference. A fantastic video that Stuart shares some of his life experience and where he is now as well. Again, we've got colleagues, and we'll hear from Graham Sorby and colleagues at the University of Abertay, thinking about what was the impact. You know, COVID was a very, very bad thing and still is. But I think, again, many governments recognised fairly early that physical activity, be that walking or running or cycling, can have huge benefits. And colleagues at the Scottish Government and colleagues in various other nations recognised early that you don't want to be within 2 metres of anyone swinging a golf club, a fishing rod, or a tennis racket. So reinstituted these other physical activities early doors, and I think we must preserve that. But you could see that had that not happened, and for the short time it wasn't allowed, then there really was an impact on people's sense of purpose, sense of self-worth, how they felt about life. And you can see that actually in terms of well-being, then golf can benefit during COVID times, but also now and beyond as well. So I think that we all share occasions that if you do play golf, there's always one shot that you hit and it's a beauty, you puff out your chest, you think that the game makes sense, but life can be difficult, particularly when you're not playing well, but also if you are out there participating in golf as part of the travelling circus. And I think John Fry and Margot Mountjoy today will share some key insights, but there's some fantastic work looking at that. And again, thanks to Georgia Hopley at the University of Edinburgh, who's got some work looking at things on the DP World Tour and Challenge Tour. So let's not forget that there are benefits to sport and physical activity, but let's not also forget the challenges that are there. And sport can challenge mental health, and it's important that we work out how we can mitigate and minimise the issues there. So what about golf and physical health? Again, you can see that work in Scandinavia through Faramand et al. Has looked and found an association between golf and increased longevity when you correct for these various other factors and socioeconomic issues. But I think, of course, further evidence is required to look at a cause and effect relationship rather than association. But again, golf is associated with various other physical health benefits in terms of lung function, increased vital capacity, looking at decreasing cholesterol, positive impacts on body composition. So I think that there is some evidence that golf can benefit physical health, and it's really exciting, again, to hear and to try and coordinate some of the various studies that are going on. Golf and injury. So I think, again, we heard from Professor Dvorak about the work that went in at FIFA, looking at what are the health benefits and how can they be promoted, but how can we also mitigate risk? And I know we've got Patrick Shamash in the audience, who again was the medical director for the IOC for many years. We've got Professor Ruel Bar and others at Wee for sharing lessons from other sports and working out how we can do the research, how we can then actually try and learn from that research and implement the stuff that works as well. So golf can, because you're playing golf for ages, then injuries can occur. So actually the risk of injury per hour played of golf is very, very low compared to other sports, but perhaps due to the volume of participants and the amount that people play, you can see that injuries can occur and they can be mitigated as well. Exciting work in Australia and also in the Netherlands, looking at specific interventions that might be able to lead to improvement as well. Again, this room has got a number of colleagues that are looking at this systematically and looking at the epidemiology, doing baseline studies. I know there's work in Ireland and Scotland and Switzerland and the USA, looking at baseline, working out prospectively what are the issues, thinking about doing a risk factor analysis and putting in interventions in place that can decrease the risk of injury. So early in this journey, but I think it's exciting that process has started, and also that there's cohesion with it. People are working together, thinking about those common pathways and ensuring that there are the same questionnaires, the same processes being followed that can hopefully make that data more robust and implementation of injury prevention strategies more effective. So again, very much looking forward to Debbie Palmer's insights on illness and injury in the Olympic setting, but golf is trying to learn in this space as well. So golf is overall good for the heart, but cardiac arrest is more frequent on our golf courses than when people are sedentary at that time. And there is research looking at that, but I think also practical implementation is part of the solution as well. So when we get this data, what can we do? And the British Heart Foundation and various other organisations really have some fantastic tools. A 15-minute app called Reviver that you can do, that you can share. At all of our golf events, we share that with all of our marshals, all our people on site, so that if you've got another 2,000 or 5,000 people that are trained across the summer in CPR in Scotland, hopefully they're able to not only make a difference at our golf events, but it can also spring to the rescue if things happen in shopping centres, in busy other areas, etc. as well. So golf can overall provide heart health benefits, but issues can occur, and I think it's very, very helpful that our third sector colleagues, our government sectors, are just working out how we can actually use our events to promote better heart health out with golf as well. So again, we do at our events at the DP World Tour have Signpost Diagnostics providing heart health assessments, metabolic screens, etc., and also skin cancer screening as well. The evidence is consistent and growing that increased UV exposure can lead to melanoma or other non-melanoma skin cancers. It's about the interventions. What can we do at the education level to decrease risk and to recognise early if lesions are found, how they can be dealt with. So just a slide here, just looking at some of the intervention of things that are happening in the world of golf and just that collaboration between the academic community, policymakers, the event industries, and just thinking about what can actually be done to decrease risk there as well. So hands up for COVID. Who likes COVID? I think COVID was clearly a risk, but it was just about working out what is the degree of the risk, what mitigations can be put in place, and how can people play golf recreational and in the community for the health benefits they can have, and also how can golf events globally mitigate risk and put things in place that can make sure the environment is safe. So again, These studies were led by Patrick Robinson, but were a collaboration with Liverpool John Moores University, our colleagues in South Africa, Vimpe Duplessis, etc., looking really and recognising the core pillars being that outside space is significantly lower risk than inside space. We knew that. Enhanced hygiene measures can help. Social distancing, again, fortunately, golf is a sport that social distancing is natural. And education, I think it's all about education, making sure that the information is there. And the first study, again, working with Professor Charlie Foster and the parliamentary group down south, just looked at golf, reviewed the literature, and worked out that golf was reasonably safe, but further measures could decrease risk. The second publication, again with our colleagues at BMJ, OpenSEM and BJSM, looked at golf events and ran the first 6 events and then a further 20 events and looked at risk on site that showed, with all the measures that were put in place, that transmission at professional golf events was exceptionally low. I think about 1 in 2,000 people attending the events had COVID at any point in time. The third thing we looked at was actually, I felt for the golfers' mental health. We were having to withdraw people because they were close contacts. And they'd say to me, but can I not just play outside socially distanced? What we generally do. So we worked with the UK government, we worked with the Spanish government, and put in place daily testing instead of standard isolation. Jaguar Land Rover did a similar thing. And again, I think thanks to Paddy's work and the work of colleagues down south, then it was something that was rolled out to the general public. And would have happened anyway, but nice to see that what we looked at golf seem to support that approach in other sports and indeed at policy level as well. And the fourth thing, again, is returning people with COVID to play as well under corporate isolation. So when people have symptoms, we are asking people to follow government advice consistently. And the golfers on the DP World Tour, the R&A, the Ladies European Tour, Golf for Disability Tour have been very, very responsible. They're very norms dominated. People are fairly introverted on the whole, and they'll typically do anything they can to put themselves in the tee and have the opportunity to play golf. So I think that the research in South Africa, again, looked at 10 consecutive events, looked at those that were playing while they were positive or looking at those that were playing while they were symptomatic and looked at any transmission associated with them. And there was no transmission whatsoever associated with that if they were behaving themselves and were outside and socially distanced, which they were. So again, very interesting as things move, that if people are outside and socially distancing, the evidence would seem to suggest that that's very safe from a COVID perspective. Inclusion and diversity, I think there's no topic more important than this in the golf and health arena at this present. And it's good that stuff is happening and more is happening, every week. The amount of projects that are happening, I think, are terrific. It may well be about trying to be as cohesive as possible. We have the same issues with inclusion and diversity. But what we know is that the 2018 consensus looking at golf and health and what can be done made clear recommendations for golf facilities, for golf industry, and also for policymakers to make sure that our golf courses and facilities are welcoming, to make sure that there's access there for all people. And it's very good to hear from Phil Anderton about the Letham Hill initiative last night that's looking at making sure that there's appropriate facilities. People can be physically active in different ways, so it's not just about golf. People can run, they can walk, they can do other stuff, they can use childcare, they can use the gym, etc. So I think it's about inclusion and diversity, but also making sure that we're not just saying it, but in practical terms, this is actually happening in terms of our facilities and the steps that folk are taking. Roger Hawkes shared some of the benefits of golf as a truly inclusive sport that really anybody can play. And you can see that traction really is gaining at the community level, but also in terms of the events that are going on. Like right now in the USA, there's the Adaptive Open with our colleagues at the USGA. We're really proud that the Golf for Disability Tour is the latest tour that we have, and the success of the athletes and the excitement that they're bringing is very beneficial. And again, I think would be something I'd encourage you to all either watch in person or on television. I think, again, when I was working for the Scottish Government, it was obvious that there are real challenges in terms of inequalities when it comes to physical activity. But the biggest group that are the least active are our older adults. So I think if there's one thing that I'd really like to take away in terms of from a policy perspective, golf can really provide health-enhancing physical activity for people of every age. and the poster that Nanette Moutray will present, I think is incredibly helpful at looking at the contribution of golf, which increases with age. And the challenge really is to make it better in terms of better access for older women as well as older men as well. But clearly there are benefits of golf for older adults, and I think it's right that improved balance, improved muscle strength has been looked at by our colleagues in California and Southampton. But you're also looking at studies from people in this room looking at improved bone density and probably also decreased injury risk and better function. Marie shared the benefits of better function, people being able to do what they want for longer. Again, thanks to our platinum sponsors of this event, Striker, but there is meta-analysis, systematic review, and joint-specific work looking at returning people, because if people have not been able to play golf and can have a joint replacement, it's about thinking about what difference that can make and what rehab programs are there. So again, golf events and health. These are some of the learnings that we've taken from Fiona and taken from Tim and taken from others in terms of what other sports are doing and how can we do our best to promote physical activity and better health through sustainability, through physical activity, and through various other things. At some of the biggest golf events on earth, you're looking at the Solheim Cup, the BMW PGA, the Open Championship. It's not just about what's happening on site. It's about NHS Fife, it's about care homes, it's about the Golf Memories Group, all doing things really allied to it and adding value and people finding something that's right to them. With golf being a hook, but it's all about social connections, cohesion, increased physical activity, and then also just, again, looking at issues that can occur and addressing those. Golf and prescription, there's a fantastic meeting ahead of this conference looking at golf and prescription in France, in Australia, in America, but then also with pilot projects in St Andrews, and we'll hear from Professor Frank Sullivan down south and in different parts of the world, looking at, as Marie said, if physical activity was a drug, it would be considered a wonder drug. It can cure and prevent more than 40 chronic diseases. So can we look at golf, along with walking, cycling, running, as something that can make a difference to an individual's health if they're prescribed it? So again, there's different methods looking at social prescription, but again, we've got Professor Graham Close, we've got Dan Coughlin looking at what can actually improve our own outcomes in the golf course. And I'm excited by this. I'm not a great golfer myself, but it's fantastic to actually get that feeling of putting the ball in the hole in less shots than last time. And I think this is, again, something that is in its early stages. Dan Coughlin, Jack Wells have done some great work looking at maximising performance and looking at what helps people hit the ball further, what helps people be more accurate. But I think it's also just looking at what the next steps are. And clearly, I think also our female athletes are a priority in looking at physical preparation from golf and looking at key differences between the female and the male athlete. I think, again, a warm-up. Apparently, according to Andrea Fradkin's work in Australia, it would appear that if you do a warm-up, you're likely to take less shots in the golf course. Injuries are far less likely to happen. So great to hear of our work in the Netherlands looking at warm-up for golf and a specific intervention that can help us all, perhaps. Nutrition and hydration. I don't know of anyone that doesn't eat or doesn't drink anything, so this is probably relevant to everyone. And this is a clear evidence gap as things stand. So again, good to hear of efforts to try and look at this at this time. And I guess if there is one thing that the conference is looking to do, it's looking to bring together the academic research, it's looking to bring together those that can actually make a difference in the industry and also policymakers to think about, the policy. And again, I'd encourage people to have a look at these three documents, looking at interventions that can improve health for golfers, looking at interventions that can improve things for golf facilities and the industry. What can golf facilities and industry do to actually make golf more accessible, more frequented, and also in terms of policymakers, what are the things that are likely to make the biggest difference, not only for the individual, but at scale also. So I'd like to just close by sharing this video, which is one of Jennifer Duncan's. So I think the headlines really are that golf is associated with improved health outcomes, but we must do something about it. And there's far more research than there was a few years ago. There's far more practical implementation, and I think there's also real collaboration. So it's great to have the opportunity to speak at this event. I think we can all think about how we can solve these issues together. And also I think we can generate ideas on social media as well. So I know we've got Will from BJSM, who's said that the hashtag for this meeting could be #GolfAndHealth2022. And it'd be great to hear not only during the break times and during the social aspects of this as to some of the good things that are going on and the bright spots that are there, but also generating some conversation on social media as well. Thanks for the chance to contribute.